Parental discretion is advised.
Alright, so I'm turning a lawnmower blade into a draw knife, and you can see that there's these holes in the middle here, so I'm going to try to weld these. Well, as usual, I ended up using 6013 and did a terrible job filling that in. I don't weld that often, so I kind of lose the skills every time. Anyway, I think it's good enough to forge, though. Alright, so you can see my welds right here. I've straightened this blade out pretty well, and I tried to kind of fuse that metal where I filled it in as best I could. Just getting this glowing orange and then pounding it a while on both sides. And at this point I think I'm ready to actually cut out a profile. So, this is after a lot of polishing and grinding, well, really just sanding, I suppose, and a little bit of grinding. It looks pretty good, but you can see it's really not that uniform. The reason is, one thing, I'm out of time, so I need to wrap this up. And the other reason is, I just don't have the right tools for this. You know. I kind of winged it. I was just kind of playing around. This was an experiment, but I do think the result will be quite usable. I thought this was kind of funny. It says grass side. So that's going to be the sharp side, and you're going to hold it like this and pull forward. I guess what I'll do is I'll give this a heat treatment, straighten it out real quick, and then, you know, just by eye. And then quench it, but hopefully not so quickly that it becomes too brittle. So there's some discoloration here, which is not surprising. I can say that once I hit this with a little bit of water, it is much harder. It's much more rigid, but I still think it's probably flexible enough. I'm just going to progressively sand this. So, I want to make some handles for this. So sharp I can hold the edge. Now it is actually pretty sharp. I think it'll work out well for a draw knife, for just peeling bark and working pieces a little bit more. Something I've been wanting a long time. But all the reviews are such garbage, I figure maybe I'll try making one. So I was playing around with some buckthorn, and it looks like it seasoned really well. I can't remember if that checking was there when I first finished that or if it dried up a little bit more. Here's some logs I started from. You can see this is some pretty severe checking right there. This side looks pretty good though. Might have to be a little selective about this stuff because of all the checking going on. Let's see. This is some apple. Where's that? Yeah, that's apple. This is some somewhat rotted apple. Yeah, this is pretty good on this side, but again, some checking on this side. Still, this might be a good piece if I'm conservative. So, I'm going to do a couple 5-inch handles out of this piece of buckthorn here. It's about the max I could get out of it. And you can see roughly, it's quite a bit of extra. I think this will work out okay though. I kind of feel like I just turned a log into a toothpick, but on the bright side, this heartwood should be especially strong. And I'm thinking I'm still a little large on the handle side. Well, let's see. Well, actually not really. I mean, this thing is kind of a little ridiculous. Alright, so these are not exactly perfect. In fact, I think this has one extra rib. But I'm really not worried about it. I'm really tired and way past my time budget on this. Well, I was in a hurry and, wobbling my drill bit straight a little bit, and it snapped off inside of one of these. That's just, it's just one of those days, It's been a really long day, and on this one I was trying to enlarge the hole, and it kind of went totally asymmetrical, because all of my drill bits are weirdly dull. You'd think they wouldn't be, but I'd swear every one of them I must have cut some metal with, because they all are super dull. All I know for sure is I'm really tired, and I have no clue how I'm going to get this freaking thing out. I guess I could drill a small hole on this side and try to stick some kind of punch in and knock it out the other side. Well, I drilled all the way through this side, all the way up to probably about there. Somehow I still haven't hit this stupid embedded, broken off piece of bit here. I just give up. So it's been a couple days. Gonna make some new handles. I wasn't thrilled with this design anyway. I mean, it's a pretty good grip, but I'll just do something a little bit different. And this time, I'm gonna take the time to actually drill out probably 2 or 3 holes horizontally, so I can really jam this piece in. All right, I made my new set of handles here. Just have to remove them, do some cuts to separate. I like these handles a little bit better. They're kind of simpler and more ergonomic, a little more traditional maybe. So what I did here was I just held this up, did a little mark here, a little mark here, just to get an idea. Then I did a quick center mark, and then I can line it up on my drill press. I'm using a little bit of sandpaper just to hold this and prevent it from getting any marks on it. And I happen to have this little XY grid here, this XY table, which is not something most people have. There are other ways to do this, I'm sure, but I just happen to have this. It's not a high quality one though. In fact, I'm actually missing one of the knobs. Whoops. Figures just a little bit off. Ouch! That'll do. And I have to sort of finesse it in place. Now the problem is my tolerance is low enough that I can't quite do this as well as I'd like. Better than nothing though. So this is kind of the result. I did 4 plunges. The middles I had to kind of just plunge and pull back as the drill bit deflected right or left. And eventually I kind of averaged it out. I'm thinking what I'm going to end up doing is burning these in, which is when you basically heat up the metal and then burn on the piece of wood. I still have to do a couple more things to this draw knife that I made out of a lawnmower blade. I've already fitted the handles. What I'd like to do next is put some kind of pin in here and here to hold this, and then just give this some kind of oil. I only sharpened one side of this. The other side is purposefully left a little bit dull. And you can see the surface is not perfect. There are certainly things I could do better if I was to remake this. I might even make more than one of these because I do have a few lawnmower blades. But I wanted to wrap up this video, so just keep in mind this is not quite done, but I'm going to go ahead and try it out. I'm sure that I have some better things to potentially use a draw knife on than this. Really a rough piece of wood here, but it's just kind of what I have on hand. This is my first try. I haven't even tried it before this point. It seems to plane pretty well. It's not too bad. This is this wood, although it's just pine, has been sitting out seasoning for quite a while, and so far this, just as a two-handed tool, seems to work pretty well. Here's a piece of buckthorn I have that's been seasoning for probably a year, maybe like a year and 6 months. So, truthfully, I haven't much used a draw knife before, so I can't quite tell the efficacy of this. I mean, it's certainly working. Doesn't need to be this long. This is, one of the reasons I made this so long was because it was cost effective in the sense that it's worth creating one of these because it's so expensive to buy a long one. That said, I feel like this could be thicker. I think I might have thinned it down a little too much. Part of it was because the weld didn't work the best in that middle area. Like the weld was fine, but the metal was harder than the lawnmower blade metal. like it was a different metal alloy. So I think that's part of it. I did actually get a new welder, so I can hopefully do some really good welds in the future and have to worry about that less. It took some effort, but as you can see, I actually can sort of chisel away at this. That's the part I'm a little less certain of. I'd have to try something green to compare it again. Go see if I can find some green wood to shave down a bit. So this tree has done nothing wrong. I simply don't want it here. It's also infected with some kind of tree bacteria or fungus or something. So it needs to go for multiple reasons. So I figure I might as well try out my draw knife on it, see how it works. Oh wow, that's a lot easier. I could actually go very deeply with this, but I'm trying to keep it on camera. Yeah, much easier to use this on green wood, like this tree that needs to go soon. I'm able to cut into it quite well. I think probably a big part of this, I'm just not used to using this kind of tool. But the proof of concept actually seems to work very well. So if you have some lawnmower blades laying around, you might as well turn them into a draw knife. Doesn't take that much work, and it's a pretty cool result. I put a couple of these zinc coated nails through. You can see it's going right through to the other side there. I'm just going to snip that with the Dremel really quickly. I'm in a big hurry, so I'm just going to quickly put a layer of boiled linseed oil on this and call it good, because I still gotta feed and water the chickens and all that good stuff. It's getting dark out. Oh, this stuff is very thirsty. I'm gonna coat it just a little bit more. Very nice. And there you have it. I'd say this is pretty much the finished result. Might end up looking a little bit different on the handles when the linseed oil actually polymerizes and evaporates. So if you try this video, be really careful with the blade, of course. That's super dangerous. And you know, just make sure you have a good handle on everything while you're working on it. The last thing you want is, for example, this blade to get caught up in the grinding wheel or something and fly off and hit you or cut off your finger or something like that. So I'd say other than that, though, there isn't a whole lot of risk to this project. It's pretty fun to do, and I'll probably make some more versions of this. You know, have a collection of these, maybe 2 or 3, probably 2 because I'm pretty busy, but. This was just an idea, and I'm happy to report that it does work pretty well. So I encourage you, if you're handy enough, to give it a shot, and maybe just buy the product if you're not. One other note, of course, if you are working with linseed oil or things like that, which have oxidative reactions for polymerization, they do actually build up some heat. So unfold them and let them dry. Not in a pile, just, let them dry out. Let them wide open, don't keep them folded. Will that catch on fire if I was to left it? Will it have caught on fire if I was to have just left it bunched up? Very likely not. But it's just a good practice. Anyway, hope you found that helpful. And if you do make this project, let me know how it turns out for you, or if you are much more experienced with draw knives, maybe you can tell me if the performance is bad, or if my technique is bad, or if it looked pretty good. I'd appreciate any feedback on that. I might even buy a commercial version just to have a comparison. As always, please like and subscribe.